The Stoic Front, Mastering the Art of Undeniable Presence. Introduction, The Gravity of Silence. True power is never loud. It does not beg for the spotlight, nor does it perform for the sake of an audience. Most people mistake volume for authority, but real confidence is a quiet, heavy presence that pulls the room toward you without you ever having to demand it. It is the steady hand in a crisis and the calm gaze in a storm. The pinnacle of this strength is reached when you become reactive to nothing. When you stop allowing the world to dictate your pulse, you become the master of your environment. This mastery is not about control over others, but absolute command over your own psyche. It is the difference between being a leaf blown by the wind and being the deep root that anchors the tree. The former is chaos, the latter is sovereignty. In this book, we will dismantle the habits of the weak and replace them with the architecture of the unshakable. These habits include the need to explain, the hunger for approval, the reflex to defend, and the addiction to external validation. Each is a leak in the vessel of your personal power. We will weld them shut. You will learn to detach from the noise of public opinion and anchor yourself in a self-worth that cannot be bargained with. This anchoring is not an act of arrogance, but of engineering. It is the deliberate construction of an internal citadel so formidable that no external event can storm its gates. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. This is not a guide on how to pretend. It is a blueprint on how to become. There are no affirmations here, only operations. No fluffy concepts, only disciplined practices. We deal in the mechanics of perception, the physics of behavior, and the architecture of character. This is applied philosophy for the modern arena. The journey requires a surgical honesty with self. You must be willing to confront the parts of you that are still weak, still needy, still reactive. This is not a condemnation but an inventory. You cannot fortify a wall without first inspecting its cracks. The process is deliberate, often uncomfortable, and entirely necessary. Clear your mind, steady your breath, and prepare to meet the most powerful version of yourself. That version already exists, buried beneath layers of conditioning and fear. Our work is excavation. Consider this book your map and your tools. The path is one of subtraction, not addition, removing everything that is not you until only the bedrock remains. What follows is a system. Each chapter builds upon the last, creating a latticework of internal discipline. Read them in order. Practice them with consistency. The transformation is not a single event but a series of quiet revolutions. Your undeniable presence awaits. Chapter 1. Escaping the Apology Trap. One of the fastest ways to hemorrhage your social power is to live in a state of constant justification. Think about how often you offer a paragraph of excuses when a sentence would suffice. This verbal leakage is a symptom of a deeper insecurity, a belief that your right to exist in your own way requires a permit from others. When you over-explain your decisions, you are silently telling the world that you are afraid of being judged. You preemptively assume the role of the defendant in a courtroom that only exists in your mind. Each added clause, because the thing is a plea for understanding, which translates as a plea for validation. Confident people understand that their choices do not require a defense. They operate from a position of internal authorization. If you cannot attend a meeting, "I have a prior commitment" is enough. The integrity of your word is the foundation. The details are scaffolding you are under no obligation to display. To offer them unsolicited is to devalue your own time. This isn't about being cold or inscrutable, it's about being certain. Certainty does not shout. It simply is. When you stand by your words with brevity, those words gain weight. They land with a finality that commands respect. The period at the end of your sentence becomes a punctuation mark of authority, not an invitation for debate. The compulsion to over-explain often stems from a misguided sense of politeness. You confuse transparency with courtesy, but true courtesy is respect for another person's time and intelligence. A concise, clear statement honors both. A rambling justification insults their capacity to accept your boundaries without a detailed report. Practice the discipline of the clean no. A clean no has no trailing particles. It is not "I can't because," or "maybe later if," it is "no, thank you," or "I won't be able to," followed by silence. The silence that follows is where your power consolidates. It allows your statement to be absorbed as fact, not opening for negotiation. This week, implement the period rule. Make a statement, give your answer, and then stop talking. Physically press your tongue to the roof of your mouth if you must. Let the silence do the work. Observe the anxiety that rises, the itch to fill the void. Let it itch. Do not scratch it. This is the muscle you are building. You will find that the less you explain, the more people respect your boundaries. They subconsciously register your economy of speech as a sign of self-respect. They begin to attribute more weight to your words, precisely because you do not cheapen them with excess. Your presence becomes defined by what you do not say. Chapter 2. Tuning the internal thermostat. Your external world is a reflection of your internal dialogue. The voice in your head is the most frequent conversation you will ever have, and it sets the temperature for your entire life. This narration is not mere background noise. It is the programming that dictates your posture, your decisions, and your perceived reality. If you walk into a room telling yourself you are an imposter, your body will shrink to match that lie. Your shoulders will curl, your eyes will dart, your voice will thin. You will become a ghost in the room, confirming your own fearful hypothesis. The body is a literal instrument, playing the tune composed by the mind. Conversely, if you tell yourself you are capable of handling whatever arises, your spine will straighten, your breath will deepen, your gaze will steady. You project a field of competence that the environment responds to. People unconsciously assign you more authority because your own system is broadcasting a signal of command. Most people wait for success to feel confident. They believe the feeling must follow the result. This is backward engineering. The correct sequence is causality. The mindset creates the conditions for the result. You must adopt the posture, physiology, and internal dialogue of the person who has already succeeded before the victory ever arrives. Your brain is a predictive machine that believes what it is told most often. It takes your repeated thoughts as data about the world. If you feed it a steady stream of doubt, "I'm not ready," "what if I fail?" it will calibrate your nervous system for hesitation and retreat. It will filter for threats and confirm your insecurity. If you feed it strategic certainty, "I am prepared," "I can handle this," it will calibrate your system for action and opportunity. It will begin to filter for resources and solutions. This is not positive thinking. It is directive asterisk thinking. You are not lying to yourself. You are giving your own neural machinery a clear operational command. Start treating your inner voice like a high-level consultant rather than a heckler. You would not pay a consultant to list your flaws and predict your failure. You pay them for analysis and strategy. When the heckler speaks, acknowledge, then dismiss it. Turn your attention to the consultant's report. Given the assets, the viable path is X. Do not tell yourself you are perfect, as that is a lie the mind will reject. Tell yourself you are competent, resourceful, or adaptable. These are provable functional truths. You have been competent before. You have adapted before. You are reminding your system of its own capabilities, tuning it to a frequency of ability, not anxiety. Master the voice and you master the man. Chapter 3. The Currency of Self-Respect. Confidence without self-respect is just a mask. It will eventually crack under pressure. Respect is the foundational currency of personal power. Unlike confidence, which can be faked in a moment, respect is earned in the ledger of your private actions. It is the compound interest of promises kept to yourself when no one is watching. This ledger is unforgiving. If you say you will work out at dawn and you hit snooze, you are making a withdrawal. You are telling your subconscious that your word to yourself is cheap. If you promise to finish a report by Friday and you procrastinate until Sunday, you are devaluing your own integrity. Each betrayal, however small, erodes the trust you have in yourself. To be undeniably strong, you must become a person who can trust themselves implicitly. This means your internal word is a binding contract. It means setting and maintaining high standards for your time, your health, your work ethic, and your associations. These standards are non-negotiable because they define the quality of your own existence. When you begin to honor your own value through consistent action, the world has no choice but to follow suit. People can sense when a person has a floor they will not drop below. This floor is not arrogance. It is a measurable standard of self-regard. It communicates that you have a price, and it is not cheap. This changes every social and professional interaction. Demand more of yourself than anyone else could ever demand of you. Your personal standards should be so rigorous that external expectations feel light by comparison. When your internal judge is stricter than any external critic, the opinion of others loses its sting. You have already passed a more difficult evaluation. This practice of self-respect manifests in tangible choices. It is choosing the nutritious meal when you're tired. It is leaving the party when you've had enough, not when the crowd disperses. It is deleting the app that wastes your hours. It is ending the relationship that diminishes you. Each choice is a deposit. As the balance in your self-respect account grows, the need for external validation simply evaporates. You no longer need them to tell you you're valuable because you have the receipts to prove it to yourself. You have a documented history of showing up for you. This evidence is unassailable. This internal wealth creates a magnetic calm. You are not desperate for deals, affection, or recognition because you are already rich in your own regard. You negotiate from abundance, not scarcity. You attract others who respect themselves, and you repel those who would see your standards as a challenge to be dismantled. The currency of self-respect is the only one that never inflates. Chapter 4. Starving the Approval Demon. The need for approval is a cage that most people spend their whole lives decorating. They arrange their words, their clothes, their lifestyles, and their opinions to win the applause of a jury they never elected. This is the ultimate form of psychological dependency, outsourcing your self-worth to a fluctuating and often indifferent public. To be dangerously confident, you must systematically starve the part of you that craves a pat on the back. This demon feeds on your attention to external scorecards, likes, praise, promotions, nods of agreement. Each time you check the score, you reinforce the neural pathway that says your value is determined out there. The goal is not to become a hermit, indifferent to all human feedback. That is fragility disguised as strength. The goal is to become an island, self-sustaining and stable. You can enjoy the sun of praise when it comes, but you are not metabolically dependent on it. You are not destroyed by the winter of criticism because your internal climate is regulated internally. Think of the people throughout history you admire most, the innovators, the artists, the leaders. They were usually the ones who stood firm while the crowd threw stones. They endured ridicule, rejection, and isolation. They did not change to fit the world. They held their ground until the world's perception finally changed to accommodate their reality. This shift requires a fundamental change in your core question. You must stop asking, "Will they like this?" and start asking, "Do I respect this?" The first question makes you a servant to hypothetical opinions. The second question makes you the author of your own standards. It is the difference between being a weather vane and a compass. The moment you stop chasing the crowd is the moment the crowd starts wondering where you're going. There is a powerful magnetism in self-containment. When you are no longer leaning forward, hungry for validation, you stand upright. Your energy is no longer siphoned into performance. This conserved energy becomes a palpable force of focus and calm. Practice approval fasting. For one day, make every minor decision, what to wear, what to eat, what to say, based solely on your own genuine preference with zero consideration for how it will be perceived. Notice the anxiety this triggers. That anxiety is the demon starving. Do not feed it. This discipline extends to your work. Create what you believe is true and valuable, not what you think will trend. Propose the solution you believe is right, not the one you think will please the boss. You will find that the work itself becomes more substantive and, ironically, more respected. The quality that comes from internal integrity is unmistakable. The final stage is when you no longer have to starve the demon because it has simply died of neglect. Your attention is so fully occupied by your own mission, standards, and internal dialogue that the craving for external validation fades into silence. You have relocated the source of your worth, and the cage door swings open, empty. Chapter 5. The Weaponry of Neutrality. The most powerful response to an attack, a provocation, or emotional blackmail is often no response at all. When someone tries to provoke you, they are attempting to hook your nervous system. Their goal is to steal your energy and focus to fuel their own drama. If you react, you have taken the bait and are now playing their game on their field. If you get angry, you have lost. Your anger is energy transferred to them, proving they can control your state. If you get defensive, you have lost. Defense implies you feel accused, placing you in a subordinate position of justifying yourself. Both reactions grant the provocateur a status they did not earn. But if you remain neutral, if you look at them with the calm, detached curiosity of a scientist observing an anomalous specimen, you retain total control. Your neutrality is an impenetrable shield. It communicates that their attempt to provoke is so insignificant it doesn't even register as a threat. This is psychological jiu-jitsu, using their force against them. Silence is the ultimate expression of this neutrality. It creates a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, and insecure people abhor it even more. Your silence will compel them to fill it, often with more words, more aggression, more explanation. As they spiral, they reveal their insecurity while you remain composed. You look unshakable because you are. This isn't about being a doormat or passive. It is about being a mountain. The mountain does not move because the wind blows, nor does it argue with the wind. It simply exists, massive and immutable. Your neutrality should have this quality of geologic patience. You are not ignoring the attack. You are transcending its plane of existence. Train yourself to institute a mandatory pause, 3 full seconds of silence, before reacting to any charged stimulus. This gap is the birthplace of your power. In those 3 seconds, the limbic system's flash flood recedes, and your prefrontal cortex comes online. You move from animal reaction to human response. In that window, you ask a single surgical question. Does this deserve my energy? Apply a ruthless cost-benefit analysis. Most provocations are petty bids for attention or transfers of anxiety. They are emotional spam. You would not craft a thoughtful reply to spam. You would delete it. Apply the same principle. Choose your battles with the stinginess of a billionaire spending his last dollar. Your focus and emotional equilibrium are your most finite resources. Investing them in every minor skirmish is bankruptcy. By remaining neutral, you conserve these resources for the missions that truly matter, your goals, your growth, your peace. You weaponize your calm. Chapter 6. The Physicality of Presence. Long before you open your mouth, your biology has already sent a telegram to everyone in the room. This is the language of presence, spoken in posture, gait, eye contact, and breath. It is processed by the ancient, subconscious parts of every other brain in your vicinity. A hunched frame, darting eyes, and restless hands are signals of a mind in retreat, broadcasting vulnerability. To change the mind, you must first command the body. The mind-body feedback loop is instantaneous. Stand as if you own the ground beneath your feet. This is not a metaphor for aggression or dominance. It is a metaphor for alignment. Your physical structure should reflect the internal claim. I belong here, and I am at ease in my own space. Keep your chest open and your head level. An open chest facilitates deep, calm breathing, which directly downregulates the stress response. A level head keeps your gaze horizontal, preventing the submissive downward glance or the arrogant upward tilt. You are neither pleading nor looking down. You are engaging the world directly. Move with the deliberate pace of someone who is not afraid of being late. Rushed, fidgety movements signal that you are being chased by time or anxiety. Slow, purposeful movements signal that you are in command of time. You dictate the tempo. This tempo has a calming effect on your own nervous system and exerts a subtle gravitational pull on others. Your eye contact should be a steady gift, not a nervous twitch. It is not a stare, which is an attack, but a soft, sustained focus. You are communicating, I see you, and I am comfortable being seen. This reciprocal visibility builds connection and authority simultaneously. It says you have nothing to hide. When your body consistently signals that you are safe and in control, your neurochemistry begins to align. Deep, diaphragmatic breathing lowers cortisol. Upright, expansive postures can increase testosterone and decrease stress hormones. You begin to literally feel the strength you are projecting. The posture creates the chemistry, which reinforces the feeling. Practice the doorway reset. Every time you walk through a new doorway into an office, a meeting, a social event, pause imperceptibly. Roll your shoulders back, take one full, deep breath, and lift your chin slightly. Enter the space with the quiet, unspoken assumption that you belong there. This ritual primes your state. This physical discipline is the bedrock of undeniable presence. Words can lie, but the body's language is far more honest and persuasive. By architecting your physical presence, you are not just acting confident. You are engineering the physiological conditions of confidence. You become your own anchor in any storm. Chapter 7. The shift from reflex to command. Most people live as reactors. Their internal state is a puppet and the external world holds the strings. A notification pings and they look. A boss frowns and they worry. A stranger is rude and they seethe. Their day is a series of knee-jerk responses to stimuli, leaving them emotionally exhausted and feeling powerless. To be truly confident, you must execute a fundamental shift from being a reactor to being a commander. A commander does not ask, "What is happening to me?" but declares, "This is what I am making happen." This is a shift in locus of control, from external to internal. It is the decision to author your day rather than just read the script. This means you decide the tone of your day in the first quiet minutes of the morning. You set an intention for focus, calm, or productivity. When a bad email arrives, you consciously choose not to let it hijack that tone. You process the information without adopting the emotional charge. The event happens around you, not to asterisk you. Leading yourself is the non-negotiable prerequisite to leading anything else. It requires radical ownership of your emotional and attentional state. Instead of the victim's cry, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask the commander's question, "How will I handle this?" This small syntactic shift moves you from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. When you stop being a victim of circumstance, you become a creator of results. This mindset is magnetic. People are biologically wired to follow calm certainty in the face of ambiguity. In a crisis, the room's attention will snap to the person who remains steady, who is not mirroring the chaos but providing a center of gravity. Implement intentional intervals. 3 times a day, mid-morning, after lunch, mid-afternoon, pause for 60 seconds. Close your eyes. Ask, am I reacting or commanding? Reset your posture. Reclaim your breath. This ritual severs the chain of automatic reaction and reasserts conscious command over your trajectory. The commander understands that not every stimulus deserves a response. You have an internal filter calibrated to your mission. Does this advance my goal? Does this threaten my peace? If the answer is no, you let it pass like a ship in the night. Your energy is a strategic asset, not a public utility. This shift is not about suppressing emotion, it is about selecting your response. You feel the anger, the urge, the anxiety, but you do not grant them executive authority. You acknowledge the signal, then you consult your higher command, your values, your goals, your standards. The reflex is a private citizen. You are the government. You maintain order. Chapter 8. Befriending the Fire. Growth only happens in the friction. If you spend your life seeking only comfort, your confidence will remain soft and untested, a theory that collapses under pressure. Real strength, like steel, is forged in the situations that make your palms sweat and your heart pound. You must learn to not just tolerate discomfort, but to seek it as a signal of growth. Deliberately seek out your stretch zone, the psychological and experiential space between what you know you can do and what you're afraid you can't. This is where the architecture of your old self is stress-tested and the materials for your new self are gathered. Every time you survive a difficult conversation, a public failure, or a grueling challenge, you are depositing evidence in the bank of self-belief. Do not run from discomfort. Learn to lean into it. Treat fear and anxiety not as stop signs, but as compasses. They point directly toward the person you need to become. The thing you are avoiding is precisely the thing that contains the lesson you lack. The muscle of courage is built through repeated exposure to the weight of fear. The gym provides the perfect physical metaphor. If the weight isn't heavy enough to make you struggle, it isn't heavy enough to make you grow. The burn is the signal of adaptation. Your mind works on the same principle. Cognitive and emotional muscle is built under tension. Seek the heavy mental lifts, the honest feedback, the ambitious project, the vulnerable conversation. Structure controlled burns. Each week, intentionally engineer one situation that sits in your stretch zone. It could be speaking up in a meeting where you'd normally stay quiet, asking for something you want but fear being denied, or spending an hour on a skill you're bad at. The goal is not success but exposure. You are teaching your system that discomfort is survivable, even productive. Reframe failure from a verdict to data. When you befriend the fire, you understand that getting burned is part of learning the temperature of things. A failed attempt is not proof of inadequacy. It is a data set on methodology. It tells you what doesn't work, bringing you closer to what does. The person with the most data wins. This practice builds a deep, quiet resilience. When the inevitable, unplanned fires of life erupt, a job loss, a conflict, a crisis, you do not panic. You have a lived history of walking through controlled fires. You have a neural pathway that says, discomfort is where I grow. This is just a bigger forge. You meet chaos with a calm curiosity. The more impossible things you survive, the more you realize that the world's limits and your own are mostly imaginary. They are stories you were told or told yourself. By repeatedly stepping into the fire and walking out stronger, you rewrite the story. Your confidence becomes rooted not in never falling, but in the proven knowledge that you can always rise from the ashes. Chapter 9. The Economy of Speech. The most influential person in the room is rarely the one talking the most. In fact, Excessive talking is often a sign of deep insecurity, a desperate verbal attempt to prove one's intelligence, worth, or belonging. It is the sound of self-doubt trying to shout itself down. Confidence, however, is profoundly comfortable with silence. Understand that words are a form of currency. The more you devalue this currency by printing too much of it, through filler words, unnecessary explanations, and speculative commentary, the less each word is worth. When you speak with severe economy, each word carries more weight. Your sentences become valuable because they are scarce. When you do speak, speak with surgical intention. Eliminate the verbal static, the like, you know, and I think. These are hedges that dilute your authority. Replace them with clear, direct language that carries the force of your conviction. Say, this will work instead of I think this might, possibly work. Listening is not a passive act. It is a high-status, strategic behavior. When you listen, you are gathering intelligence about the person, the room, the unspoken dynamics. When you speak, you are giving that intelligence away. The person who listens most holds a strategic advantage. They understand the battlefield before they choose to engage. Practice the discipline of being the last to speak in a discussion. Let others fill the air with their half-formed thoughts and positional debates. As they speak, your understanding deepens. When you finally contribute, your point will be more synthesized, more insightful, and will often resolve the discussion. Your silence becomes a vacuum that pulls wisdom to you. This week, undertake a speech fasting challenge. Aim to listen twice as much as you speak in every conversation. Do not prepare your reply while the other person is talking. Absorb what they are saying. Notice how this changes the dynamic. People will feel heard by you, and in turn, they will value your words more when you offer them. Your quiet presence creates a perception of depth. In a world of constant noise, silence is a rarity. It creates space for others to project onto you their assumptions of intelligence and competence. They begin to see you as a person of substance because you are not constantly revealing your process. You are only revealing your conclusions. This economy extends to digital communication. Write emails that are half as long. Make points with bullet-like precision. The person who can convey complex ideas with simplicity is the person who truly understands them and commands respect. Master the art of saying more with less, and your presence will expand in the space your words vacate. Chapter 10. Turning the no into a tool. Rejection is the great filter of life. It stops the weak and refines the strong. If you are afraid of hearing no, you will live a life of profound limitation, forever confined to the safe harbor of guaranteed acceptance. You will never ask for the raise, the sale, the date, or the opportunity that could transform your trajectory. You must develop a psychological callus toward rejection. This is not numbness, but a functional reinterpretation. Understand that a no is rarely a personal judgment on your worth. It is most often a simple mismatch of timing, context, need, or perspective. It is data about the market, the person, or the situation, not a verdict on you. The most successful people in any field have a mountain of rejections behind them. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't let the mountain bury them. They used it as a foundation to stand higher. They understood that volume of attempt, coupled with intelligent adaptation from the no data, inevitably leads to yes. When you stop fearing rejection, you become operationally dangerous. You are willing to take the shots that others are too afraid to attempt. Your rate of execution increases exponentially. You become the person in the room who actually asks the question, makes the offer, pitches the idea. While others are paralyzed by the possibility of no, you are already collecting data. Reframe every no as a not this way or a not right now. It is directional feedback, not a full stop. It tells you to adjust your angle, refine your offer, or simply try a different door. A no is the tuition you pay for your education and success. It is not a fee for failure. Implement a rejection quota. Set a goal to receive a certain number of no's per week. This inverts the psychology. Now, a no is not a failure to be avoided, but a target to be hit. It means you are playing at the edge of your comfort zone. You are seeking the no because it is the proof of effort, and it is the only path to a meaningful yes. This practice builds immense resilience. Each no that doesn't kill you, and none of them will, makes you more fearless. You learn that the worst-case scenario, the dreaded rejection, is not only survivable but is often the necessary step before the best-case scenario. The no loses its emotional sting and becomes a purely strategic tool. Keep moving until you find the yes, and realize that every single no along the way was part of the curriculum. They taught you patience, adaptability, and perseverance. The final yes is not a reward for being perfect, but a testament to your refusal to be defined by no. You turn the filter into a ladder. Chapter 11. The Power of Detachment. One of the greatest sources of anxiety and neediness is being psychologically hooked on a specific outcome. When your sense of peace, worth, or identity is dependent on a deal closing, a person liking you, or a project succeeding, you have handed them the keys to your emotional state. You are a hostage to results. True confidence and power come from cultivating detachment, specifically, detachment of identity from outcome. This is not apathy. It is the opposite. It is caring deeply about the quality of your effort, your ethics, and your execution, while simultaneously releasing your grip on the result. You control the input. You surrender the output. You do the work with impeccable standards. You give your best effort with full focus. And then you mentally and emotionally release the result to the universe of variables you cannot control. Market conditions, other people's decisions, luck, timing. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you are still the same person of integrity and capability. Your value is unchanged. This outcome independence is what makes you incredibly attractive and effective in negotiation, relationships, and leadership. People can sense when you aren't thirsty for a result. There is no scent of desperation. This lack of neediness projects strength and creates space for better terms, more genuine connection, and sounder decisions. Paradoxically, when you are genuinely willing to walk away from a bad deal or a toxic dynamic, you often find the other party becomes more willing to meet your terms. Your detachment gives you the ultimate leverage, the leverage of not needing it. You negotiate from a fortress of self-sufficiency, not a hut of need. Focus obsessively on the process, the daily habits, the disciplined effort, the integrity of your actions. Fall in love with the practice, not the prize. The process is what you own. The result is a byproduct. When you trust the process, the anxiety about results diminishes. You know that consistent, high-quality input statistically yields favorable output over time. Apply this to your internal world. Detach your self-worth from your productivity. You are not your output. Detach your peace from the behavior of others. You are not their referee. This internal detachment creates a calm center that no external storm can disrupt. You become like the depth of the ocean, still and powerful, while the surface weather rages. This is the master key to freedom. You cannot control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. Detachment is the skill of adjusting your sails, your focus, your effort, your attitude, while accepting the wind as it is. When you master this, you are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a skilled navigator of any sea. The result is not your destination. Your character is. Chapter 12. Building the Unapologetic Wall. Boundaries are the non-negotiable architecture of your sovereignty. They are the gatekeepers of your energy, focus, and peace. Without clear, firm boundaries, you are a public park. Anyone can wander in, leave their trash, and dictate the noise level. You will feel constantly drained, resentful, and powerless. Confident people have boundaries that are as clear and firm as castle walls. They are not angry or emotional about them. They are simply factual. If a request doesn't align with their goals or values, the answer is no. If someone speaks to them disrespectfully, they end the conversation. The boundary is stated calmly and enforced consistently. You do not need to be aggressive to set a boundary. You need to be clear. In fact, the more calm and matter-of-fact you are when stating a limit, the more authority you project. Anger in boundary setting often reveals that you feel guilty for having the boundary at all. Certainty requires no emotional amplification. Understand a critical axiom. You are not responsible for other people's emotional reactions to your boundaries. If someone becomes upset, angry, or tries to guilt-trip you after you say no, it is almost always because they benefited from you having no boundaries. Their reaction is a problem with their expectations, not a problem with your integrity. Protecting your time, your energy, and your mental space is the highest form of self-care and strategic operation. It is not selfish. It is necessary. You cannot contribute your best work, be a good partner, or think clearly if you are perpetually depleted by the demands and dramas of others. A drained reservoir helps no one. Practice preemptive boundary setting. Don't wait for people to cross a line. Define your operating principles up front. I don't take calls after 7 p.m. I need 24 hours notice for meetings. I don't discuss work on weekends. This establishes the rules of engagement before a conflict arises, making enforcement smoother. When you stop being a people pleaser, you start being a self-respecter. This transition is initially uncomfortable. You will feel a sense of loss, the loss of the cheap approval you used to buy with your compliance. But soon, you will gain something far more valuable, your own respect. And ironically, the people who actually matter will respect you more for it. Your unapologetic wall is not a barrier to keep everyone out. It is a filter to let the right things in. It ensures that only the people, projects, and conversations that align with your mission and respect your peace can enter your inner sanctum. Behind this wall, you are free to build, create, and rest. It is the foundation of a powerful life. Chapter 13. Order in the midst of chaos. Life is inherently messy and unpredictable. Plans will fail, people will act irrationally, and genuine emergencies will arise. In these moments of heightened chaos, the world instinctively looks for a center, a point of stability around which to reorganize. Most people fail this test because they mirror the chaos. They panic because the situation is panicking. The person who has built a stoic front does the opposite. When the emotional volume in the room goes up, your internal volume goes down. When the pace becomes frantic and scattered, you consciously slow your movements and deepen your breath. This inverse reaction is the unmistakable hallmark of true leadership and command. This composure proves that your internal state is not a slave to external circumstances. You have decoupled your nervous system from the collective panic. By remaining the eye of the storm, you provide a calm, clear space for others to find their footing. You become the psychological anchor for the situation. This is not an act for appearance alone. It is a critical strategic advantage. You cannot solve a complex problem with the same frantic, short-circuited energy that created the panic. Panic narrows vision to immediate threats. Calm expands vision to systemic solutions. Your calmness allows for higher-order processing. When chaos erupts, your first action is always the same. Pause and breathe. Do not speak. Do not react. Take 3 full diaphragmatic breaths. This simple act oxygenates your brain, downregulates your stress response, and creates a temporal bubble of clarity. In this bubble, you transition from reactor to strategist. Your next action is to *assess, don't assume. Gather facts, not fears. Ask short, direct questions to clarify the situation. Avoid the language of catastrophe, this is a disaster, and use the language of variables. What are the key factors here? This frames the problem as a puzzle to be solved, not a monster to be feared. Then you act with deliberate precision. Issue one clear instruction at a time. Move with purpose, not speed. Your calm, measured actions become a template for others to follow. You are not dismissing the severity of the situation. You are demonstrating the correct method for navigating it through focus, not fear. The person who can remain cold-blooded in a hot-blooded situation is the person who will always command respect and direct the outcome. You train for this in the small daily fires, the missed deadline, the rude comment, the traffic jam. By practicing your inverse reaction in minor chaos, you build the neural architecture to deploy it automatically in the major storms. You become order incarnate. Chapter 14. The Architecture of Competence. You cannot sustainably fake the confidence of a master. A concert pianist doesn't need to tell you she can play. Her hands hold 10,000 hours of practice. A veteran pilot's calm in turbulence is born from countless simulated emergencies. If you want unshakable confidence, you must build it on the unassailable foundation of undeniable skill. This means committing to the boring, repetitive, and often lonely work behind the scenes. It means studying your craft with a scholar's depth until you understand its principles, not just its procedures. It means logging the repetitions when no one is watching, failing in private, and refining your technique through obsessive attention to detail. Competence is the only permanent cure for imposter syndrome. That nagging voice of doubt is silenced not by affirmation, but by evidence. When you know, truly know, that you have put in the reps, analyzed the data, and prepared for contingencies, the fear of performance transmutes into the focus of execution. You are not wondering if you're good enough. You are ready to demonstrate what you've built. Stop looking for hacks, secrets, or shortcuts to confidence. They are fool's gold. Start looking for reps. The confidence that comes from earned skill has a different quality than bravado. It is quiet, deep, and unshakable because it is tied to something real and external, your measurable ability. The work itself becomes your anchor. This architecture is built project by project, skill by skill. Choose one core competency relevant to your mission and deconstruct it. What are its fundamental components? Where are your weaknesses? Design a deliberate practice regimen to attack those weaknesses. Measure your progress not by emotion but by metrics: speed, accuracy, complexity handled. Your confidence then becomes modular and transferable. The process of achieving mastery in one domain teaches you the meta-skill of how to achieve mastery. You learn how you learn. You understand the plateau phases, the breakthrough moments, the role of rest. This meta-confidence allows you to walk into any new arena with the calm assurance that you can figure it out. When you speak from this foundation, your communication changes. You no longer deal in opinions. You deal in insights born of experience. You don't make pronouncements. You explain principles. This substance is palpable. People listen differently because they sense the bedrock beneath your words. The work is the only thing that will never lie to you. External validation is fickle. Moods are transient. But the neural pathways forged by disciplined practice, the skills etched into muscle memory, the knowledge integrated into understanding, these are permanent possessions. They form the architecture of a self that cannot be dismantled by circumstance. You become a sovereign state of capability. Chapter 15. The Sovereignty of the Self-Contained. The final, master level of confidence is not a technique or a strategy, but a state of being, living as a complete, self-contained ecosystem. You do not look to the world to fill your cup, to validate your existence, or to give you purpose. You show up with a cup that is already overflowing from an internal spring. You are the source. When you live from a place of genuine internal abundance, you cease to be a psychological beggar. You don't need the promotion, the relationship, or the acclaim to feel complete. Your sense of worth and sufficiency is generated internally, from your own alignment with your values, your growth, and your mission. You are already enough, and thus you are free. This does not mean the abandonment of ambition. It means the purification of ambition. Your drive is no longer fueled by a deficiency. I need this to be okay, but by a desire to contribute, to explore, to express your capabilities. You work because you love the craft and the challenge, not because you crave the status symbol. You connect with others to share, not to extract. This total self-sovereignty is the most psychologically dangerous and free state a human can attain because you have removed the world's leverage. If you cannot be bought with praise, you are incorruptible. If you cannot be crushed by criticism, you are invulnerable to coercion. If your happiness is not contingent on external events, you are ungovernable by circumstance. Your relationships transform. You no longer cling or manipulate. You choose to be with people because you enjoy and respect them, not because you need them to fix you. You love from a place of fullness, which is the only kind of love that is truly generous and non-toxic. You become a stable harbor for others, not another ship lost in the storm. Your decision-making becomes crystal clear. Without the static of neediness and fear, you can assess options based purely on logic, values, and long-term benefit. You can walk away from good opportunities that aren't great fits. You can endure short-term pain for long-term gain without an identity crisis. You are playing the infinite game. This sovereignty is maintained through the daily disciplines outlined in this book: the silence, the boundaries, the detachment, the competence. It is not a static achievement but a dynamic practice. You must continually guard your internal springs from the pollution of comparison, consumption, and complaint. You have found the treasure within yourself, and therefore, the world holds no lure that can truly tempt you off your path. You engage with the world not as a supplicant but as a benefactor. Your presence is a gift, not a request. This is the essence of undeniable presence. You are so complete in yourself that your very being commands a quiet, gravitational respect. You are the Stoic front, impregnable, calm, and utterly free. Chapter 16: The New Standard. Confidence is not a destination you arrive at. It is a discipline you practice. It is a series of choices made in the quiet moments: how you speak to yourself at dawn, how you carry your body into a room, what you tolerate by noon, and what you release by nightfall. It is the cumulative architecture of 10,000 right actions. By walking the path laid out in these chapters, you have begun to construct a version of yourself that is moved by nothing external. You have learned that your ultimate power lies not in your aggression, but in your response, or more precisely, in your chosen non-response. You have shifted the battlefield from the outside world to the inner sanctum, and you have fortified it. These principles are not mere philosophy. They are operational software for a life of agency and peace. Do not let them remain as ink on a page or concepts in your mind. You must install them through repetition. Take them into the boardroom and speak less. Take them into the gym and embrace the burn. Take them into your relationships and set the clean, kind boundary. The world's noise, its demands, its dramas, its endless opinions will continue unabated, but you are no longer an amplifier for that noise. You have become the silence that contains it, the space that allows it to pass without leaving a mark. Your calm is not passive. It is an active, powerful force that reorders the energy around you. Your new life did not begin when you finished this book. It began the first moment you chose not to over-explain, the first time you sat in comfortable silence, the first "no" you said with conviction. That life expands each time you choose internal authority over external validation, each time you meet chaos with order, Each time you act from abundance, not lack. The standard has been set. It is the standard of the self-contained, the self-authorized, the self-respecting. It is the standard of the Stoic front. Now the maintenance is yours. Stand tall, speak with intent. Guard your peace with a ferocity that leaves no room for doubt. The world does not need another noisy ego, it needs more unshakable presence. Go out and be it. The Unarmed Citadel, the architecture of unshakable confidence. Chapter 17, The Confidence of Substance. Confidence is not something you find, it is something you build. It is not a mood to be conjured, but a structure to be engineered brick by brick, with the materials of action, integrity, and resilience. The confidence sold by the world, loud, performative, and dependent on applause, is a facade. It collapses under the first real pressure. True confidence is quiet. It is the deep hum of a well-tuned engine, not the blare of a horn. It does not need to announce itself because its evidence is in the results, the calm, the unwavering posture in the face of uncertainty. This is the confidence of substance, not showmanship. It is forged in the private choices you make when no one is watching, and it manifests publicly as an undeniable gravity. What follows in Part 2 is the engineering manual. We move from the external front of Stoic presence to the internal architecture that makes it possible. Here, we lay the foundation, raise the walls, and fortify the citadel of the self. We will examine the pillars of self-trust, the beams of capability, and the mortar of disciplined thought. This is the work behind the presence. Anyone can learn to stand still for a moment, but to stand unshakable for a lifetime requires a foundation that reaches bedrock. We will excavate down to that bedrock. The process is systematic, often uncomfortable, and entirely liberating. You are not borrowing confidence. You are manufacturing it from the raw material of your own experience. Prepare to shift from appearance to architecture. The man who looks calm in a storm is admired. The man who built his house on stone, who architected his own calm, is unstoppable. This is the path to becoming that man. Clear the site. Gather your tools. We begin. Chapter 18, The Foundation of Self-Trust. All confidence is, at its core, a prediction. It is the brain's calculation that you can handle what comes next. This calculation is not guesswork. It is based on data. The most critical data set is your history with yourself. Every time you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you deposit evidence into this account. Every time you break it, you make a withdrawal. The foundation of unshakable confidence is therefore self-trust. It is the non-negotiable belief that your own word is bond. When you tell yourself you will wake up at 5 a.m. to work, and you do, you are building trust. When you say you will not engage in gossip, and you don't, you are reinforcing the structure. This trust is built in the mundane, private moments of life. Most people are reliable for others and treacherous to themselves. They will move mountains to meet a deadline for their boss, but will consistently betray their own commitments to their health, their learning, or their peace. This creates a fundamental psychic split. You cannot trust a person who has proven themselves a liar, even if that person is you. To build this foundation, you must start microscopically. Do not vow to run a marathon next month if you haven't run a mile this year. Vow to put on your running shoes and stand outside for 1 minute. Then do it. The goal is not the run, it is the kept promise. You are programming your nervous system with the pattern. My word to myself results in action. This practice expands. You keep the promise to turn off your phone by 10 p.m. You keep the promise to read 10 pages. You keep the promise to not check email for the first hour of the day. Each kept promise is a brick laid in the foundation. The structure that emerges is a self that is predictable, reliable, and therefore trustworthy to its own mind. When this foundation is solid, anxiety about external challenges diminishes. Your internal dialogue shifts from, "Can I handle this?" 2. I have handled difficult things before. I trust myself to navigate this. The fear of the unknown is replaced by a trust in your own known capacity to endure, adapt, and execute. This self-trust becomes your primary source of security. You are no longer desperately seeking external contracts, guarantees, or validations because you have the most important contract of all, with yourself. You have proven you will show up for you. This is the bedrock upon which every other form of confidence is built. From this day forward, audit your self-promises. Treat them with the solemnity of a legal document. Start small, be ruthless in your execution, and watch as the foundation of your character becomes the most solid thing you know. On this rock, you can build anything. Chapter 19. Confidence as a skill, not a trait. The single most liberating realization is that confidence is not a fixed trait you are born with or without. It is a skill, and like any skill, like playing the piano or speaking a language, it is developed through deliberate, repeatable practice. You are not unconfident. You are unpracticed. View confidence as a set of micro-competencies. The ability to maintain eye contact, to speak in a steady tone, to endure silence, to accept a compliment, to deliver bad news, to ask for what you want. Each of these is a discrete skill that can be isolated, practiced, and mastered. You do not get confidence, you assemble it. This reframes the entire endeavor. You are not waiting for a magical feeling to descend upon you before you can act. You are an engineer assembling a functional machine. If the machine fails in a situation, if you stammer, blush, or retreat, you do not condemn the machine. You diagnose the faulty component and you drill on it. The practice is specific and often uncomfortable. If you fear speaking up in meetings, your drill is not to be more confident. Your drill is to make one contribution, however small, in every meeting for the next month. The first time, your heart will pound. The 10th time, it will be a routine. You are not feeling your way into action. You are acting your way into a new feeling. The gym analogy is perfect. You do not walk into a gym for the first time and lift the heaviest weight. You start with the empty bar. You focus on form. You add weight incrementally. Confidence is the same. You must find the appropriate weight, the social or professional challenge that is just beyond your current ability, and lift it repeatedly. This skill-based view destroys the myth of the natural. The charismatic leader, the unflappable surgeon, the compelling speaker, they have simply logged more reps. They have failed more times in private, analyzed their mistakes, and practiced the sub-skills until they became automatic. Their ease is earned, not endowed. Therefore, your prescription is simple. Identify the one sub-skill of confidence that would most impact your life. Is it vocal projection? Is it initiating conversation? Is it holding your ground in a disagreement? Design a daily or weekly drill for it. Measure progress not by the absence of fear, but by the clarity of execution despite the fear. Embrace the clumsiness of the learning phase. The pianist accepts the wrong notes as part of learning the sonata. You must accept the awkward pause, the imperfect phrase, the slight tremor as part of building the skill of confidence. Each rep, successful or not, is data that makes you more skilled. Confidence is not a gift, it is a craft, and you are the craftsman. Chapter 20. The body as confidence's first language. Long before your conscious mind forms a thought about a situation, your body has already delivered its verdict. Your posture, your breath, your facial microexpressions broadcast a signal to your own brain and to the world. This signal is the foundational layer of confidence. To build the mind, you must first command the medium it inhabits. The feedback loop between body and brain is instantaneous and powerful. Adopt a posture of defeat, slumped shoulders, lowered head, shallow breath, and your brain receives the signal. We are in a low-power, low-status state. Release stress hormones. Prepare for retreat. Your thoughts will follow, becoming small, fearful, and defensive. Conversely, adopt a posture of command, spine elongated, chest open, shoulders back, breath deep and diaphragmatic, and your brain receives the signal. We are in a high-power, high-status state. Release neurotransmitters associated with well-being and focus. Resources are available. Your thoughts will follow, becoming more expansive and solution-oriented. This is not faking it. This is asterisk hacking the operating system. You are using the body to directly manipulate the neurochemical environment of the brain. Studies show that holding power poses for as little as 2 minutes can increase testosterone linked to assertiveness and decrease cortisol linked to stress. You are not pretending to be confident. You are physiologically inducing the state. Your breath is the master regulator. Under threat, breathing becomes rapid and shallow, fueling the fight-or-flight cascade. By consciously taking control and breathing slowly, aim for a 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 6-second exhale. You directly downregulate the sympathetic nervous system. You tell your biology, I am not under attack. I am in control. Practice embodied resets throughout your day. Every hour on the hour, perform a 60-second reset. Stand up straight. Roll your shoulders back 3 times. Take 3 deep, slow breaths and set your gaze on the horizon. This ritual breaks the accumulation of submissive postures and resets your system to a baseline of alert calm. The goal is to make this your default state. It is not an act you put on for important moments. It is the way you inhabit your body. Walk with a pace that says you own your time. Sit as if you are occupying your chair fully. Let your gestures be deliberate, not frantic. Your physical presence should communicate containment and readiness. When your body consistently speaks the language of calm authority, your mind begins to believe the translation. The feelings of confidence, the sense of capability, the absence of desperate urgency begin to arise naturally. They are the emotional echo of a physical fact. You have made confidence your first language, spoken in the dialect of your own breath and bones. Chapter 21. The Mind Gym, Training for Mental Toughness. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the trained capacity to act despite it. This capacity is mental toughness, the resilience of your focus and the durability of your will under pressure. Just as you train your body in a physical gym, you must train your mind in a mental one. The mind is a muscle that weakens without resistance and strengthens under load. Your mental gym is built on voluntary discomfort. It is the deliberate choice to engage in tasks that challenge your focus, patience, and emotional regulation. This could be waking up 30 minutes earlier than necessary, taking a cold shower, fasting from distraction, social media, news for a day, or practicing a difficult skill you're bad at. The purpose is not masochism. It is inoculation. By voluntarily exposing yourself to controlled, manageable stress, you build a tolerance for the uncontrollable stress of life. You teach your nervous system that discomfort is not an emergency, but a passing state. You learn that you can maintain focus and equanimity even when conditions are suboptimal. A primary exercise is focus sprints. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Choose a cognitively demanding task. For the duration, your only goal is to keep your attention welded to that task. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently guide it back, without self-criticism. This is the bicep curl for your attention span. Do this daily. Another is negative visualization. Spend 5 minutes each morning contemplating a potential loss or failure, a professional setback, a personal rejection. Do not catastrophize. Simply observe the scenario calmly. Then, mentally walk through how you would respond, adapt, and continue. This strips future fears of their unknown power and builds psychological preparedness. Mental toughness is also trained in language. Eliminate catastrophic self-talk. Replace, "This is a disaster" with "This is a problem to be solved." Replace "I can't handle this" with "This will require my full focus." You are not lying to yourself. You are selecting the linguistic frame that enables agency rather than panic. The toughest training happens in real-time reflection. After any stressful event, conduct an after-action review. Ask, where did my mind go first? Did my focus hold? What mental tool did I use and what tool did I forget? This turns experience into data and data into better training protocols for next time. Over time, this training creates a buffer zone between stimulus and reaction. An insult, a setback, a surge of fear arises, and in the space you have carved out through mental training, you find your choice. You are no longer a reflexive creature. You are a responding agent. Your confidence is now rooted in the proven knowledge that your mind can withstand pressure. It is toughened, reliable, and yours. Chapter 22. The Competence Cascade. At the heart of authentic, unshakable confidence lies a simple, undeniable truth. You know what you're doing. This is the competence cascade. It begins with the private, often tedious acquisition of skill and knowledge. It culminates in the public, effortless projection of calm capability. The former creates the latter. There is no shortcut. Competence is confidence's anchor to reality. Without it, confidence is a balloon, inflated, fragile, and at the mercy of the wind. With it, confidence is a keel, hidden, weighted, and providing stability in any storm. Your job is to build the heaviest, most reliable keel you can in the areas that matter most to your life and mission. This requires an apprenticeship mindset. You must be willing to be a novice, to be bad at something publicly and privately in order to eventually become a master. Embrace the beginner's gap, the frustrating distance between your taste, knowing what good looks like, and your current ability. This gap is not an indictment. It is the map for your journey. Focus on depth over breadth. Choose one, two, or at most three core competencies critical to your identity and goals. Deconstruct them. What are the fundamental components? What does mastery look like in practice, not in theory? Design a deliberate practice regimen that systematically attacks your weaknesses. Log your hours. Measure your progress coldly. The magic of deep competence is that it generates a field of quiet authority. When you truly understand a domain, you no longer need to argue or boast. Your understanding is evident in your questions, your insights, and your solutions. You can explain complex ideas simply because you see the structure beneath the details. This is palpable to others. This competence also creates transferable confidence. The process of achieving mastery in one area teaches you the meta skills of learning, how to break down problems, endure plateaus, and integrate feedback. You develop a deep trust in your own ability to figure things out. This meta-confidence allows you to walk into unfamiliar arenas without panic. Beware the imposter syndrome that often accompanies growing competence. It is a lagging indicator. Your conscious mind, accustomed to your past level of skill, hasn't caught up to your new reality. The feeling of being a fraud is often the psychological echo of the beginner you left behind. Keep a proof file of accomplishments and positive feedback to recalibrate your self-assessment. The cascade is self-reinforcing. Competence leads to successful outcomes. Successful outcomes provide evidence. Evidence solidifies self-trust. Self-trust allows you to operate with more calm and authority, which leads to better performance and greater competence. You have engineered a virtuous cycle. Your confidence is no longer a mood. It is a mathematical certainty based on proven capability. Chapter 23. The Algebra of Action, Momentum over Mood. The universal mistake is waiting to feel confident before taking action. This inverts the true causal sequence. Confidence is not the prerequisite for action. It is the byproduct of action. You do not think your way into courageous behavior. You behave your way into courageous thinking. The equation is simple. Action equals evidence. Evidence equals confidence. Stop consulting your feelings as if they are a reliable forecast. Your feelings in the moment of decision are based on past data and fear of the unknown. They are historical documents, not prophetic visions. To base your actions on them is to be governed by ghosts. The only way to generate new, confidence-producing data is to act in spite of them. This is the algebra of action. Small, disciplined, consistent actions, regardless of internal weather, create momentum. Momentum creates a track record of small successes. This track record becomes objective evidence that you are a person who can do hard things. Your brain, a pattern recognition machine, updates its prediction. Oh, we handle these situations. Proceed. Therefore, your primary task is to decouple action from emotional state. Create non-negotiable action protocols. If your protocol is to write for 30 minutes each morning, you do it whether you feel inspired or despondent. The goal is not the quality of the output in that session. The goal is the execution of the protocol. You are proving to yourself that your will is stronger than your mood. Start microscopically to bypass resistance. Do not vow to network confidently. Vow to introduce yourself to one new person today. Do not vow to become a public speaker. Vow to share one idea in a meeting. The action must be so small that the cost of not doing it feels greater than the anxiety of doing it. You are building the neural pathway of action first. Each completed action is a deposit in your confidence account. A skipped action is a withdrawal. Over time, the balance grows. You begin to trust not a fleeting feeling, but your own proven propensity to act. This trust becomes the new foundation. When a larger challenge appears, you don't search for confidence. You simply initiate your action protocol. You do the next right thing. Momentum is a physical law that applies to psychology. An object in motion stays in motion. Your small, consistent actions create a forward vector that becomes harder to disrupt. Inertia, the tendency to stay stuck, is overcome. You are no longer starting from zero every day. You are continuing from yesterday's progress. Embrace the liberating truth. You do not need to feel ready. You just need to begin. The feeling of confidence will meet you along the path, a loyal companion born from your own footsteps. Stop waiting for the weather to clear. Start walking. The path itself will give you the strength to finish the journey. Chapter 24. The Reframe Engine, Cognitive Sovereignty. Your confidence is held hostage not by events, but by your interpretation of events. Two people can experience the same rejection. One frames it as a devastating proof of inadequacy. The other frames it as useful feedback and a mismatch of timing. Their emotional and subsequent behavioral worlds will be completely different. The event was the same. The story was not. You possess a reframe engine, the cognitive ability to consciously choose the narrative you attach to an experience. This is not positive thinking. It is *accurate or *strategic thinking. It is the practice of interrogating your initial, often catastrophizing, interpretation and selecting a more useful, evidence-based one. This is the essence of cognitive sovereignty. The first step is awareness. Catch the automatic thought. I failed that presentation. I'm terrible at this. Pause, label it. That is a catastrophizing thought. You are not your thought. You are the observer of the thought. This creates critical distance. Next, deploy deliberate reframing. Ask forensic questions. Is this thought 100% true all of the time? No, you've given good presentations before. Is this thought helpful? No, it leads to shame and avoidance. What is a more accurate and useful thought? The middle section was weak because I didn't practice it enough. Next time, I will drill that section specifically. This was a lesson in preparation, not a verdict on my ability. This reframing moves you from a fixed mindset, "I am bad" to a growth mindset, "I can improve." It moves you from a victim narrative, "This happens to me," to an agent narrative, "This is a result I can analyze and adjust." The event loses its emotional toxicity and becomes data for your development. Apply this to fear. Reframe, "I am terrified of this speech" to "My body is energizing me for a high-focus performance." The physiological symptoms, racing heart, shallow breath, are identical. The story you tell about them determines whether they fuel you or cripple you. Apply this to setbacks. Reframe, "My project was rejected" to "I now have clearer information about what this client audience values. I can refine my approach." The rejection is no longer a stop sign, it's a directional arrow. This practice builds immense psychological resilience. When you are the author of your interpretations, external events lose their power to define your state. A critic's words are just sound waves until you process them through your reframe engine. You can choose to extract the useful signal and discard the emotional noise. Cognitive sovereignty is the ultimate internal power. No one can install a narrative in your mind without your consent. By mastering your reframe engine, you ensure that the stories you live by are stories of agency, learning, and capability. Your confidence becomes immune to circumstance because it is fed by your own chosen, strategic interpretations of reality. Chapter 25: The Social Mirror, Confidence in the Field. Confidence is not a monastic virtue. It is field-tested in the arena of other people. Social interaction is the crucible where your internal architecture meets external reality. It is also a hall of mirrors, reflecting back distorted images based on your own projections. To be confident among others, you must first understand the dynamics of the mirror. The fundamental law is this: people treat you based on the signal you broadcast. If you broadcast neediness through over-talking, seeking approval, weak posture, you will be treated as needy. If you broadcast self-containment, calm listening, comfortable silence, solid posture, you will be granted space and authority. You are programming their responses. Therefore, your primary focus in any social interaction should be internal, not external. Your job is not to manage their opinion of you. Your job is to manage your own state. Maintain your breath. Maintain your posture. Listen fully. When your internal state is calm and self-possessed, the signal you broadcast is one of strength, and the social mirror will reflect that back. Abandon impression management. The desperate attempt to curate a perfect image is the fastest route to appearing insecure. It leaks out in forced laughter, rehearsed lines, and anxious scanning of faces for approval. Instead, commit to authentic engagement. Be present, be curious, be willing to be imperfect. This vulnerability, rooted in self-acceptance, reads as true confidence. Practice outward focus. Insecure people are trapped in self-consciousness. How do I look? What do they think of me? Confident people focus outward on the other person, the topic, the environment. This is a switch you can flip. In a conversation, devote 100% of your attention to understanding the other person. This liberates you from the prison of self-monitoring and makes you a more compelling interactant. Handle dominance tests with neutral grace. Some people will test your boundaries with interruptions, condescension, or provocative questions. The confident response is neither submission nor aggression. It is calm, unflinching neutrality. You can let an interruption hang in the air for a second before continuing, or answer a provocative question with a simple, factual no. You maintain your frame. Understand that social confidence is a volume game. Exposure dulls the sharp edge of anxiety. Force yourself into social situations slightly beyond your comfort zone, not to perform, but to observe and acclimate. Go to the networking event with the goal of having 3 substantive conversations, not collecting 20 business cards. Quality of connection over quantity of contact. Finally, be the source of calm, not the seeker of energy. When you enter a room with the intent to contribute calm, to listen deeply, to offer value without expectation, you operate from a position of abundance. You are not there to take, you are there to give. This posture is psychologically untouchable. The social mirror, faced with such a source, can only reflect back respect. You have mastered the field. Chapter 26. The Vulnerability Paradox. Modern culture mistakes vulnerability for weakness. It is the opposite. Strategic vulnerability, the conscious choice to expose an appropriate aspect of your humanity, is a supreme act of confidence. It signals that your self-worth is so secure that a momentary exposure cannot damage it. The wall is unbreachable, so you can safely open a window. True weakness is hiding, the frantic effort to conceal every flaw to project an image of seamless perfection. This is exhausting and transparent. It broadcasts fear. Confidence has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. It can say, "I don't know, I was wrong," or "this matters to me," without its foundation trembling. The paradox is that admitting a limitation often increases your perceived capability. Admitting you don't know something but know how to find out demonstrates intellectual honesty and resourcefulness. Admitting a past failure and the lesson learned demonstrates growth and resilience. Perfection is alienating. Relatable strength is magnetic. This must be strategic, not confessional. You do not vomit your insecurities onto strangers. You share a relevant struggle after you have largely overcome it, or in the context of seeking a specific, collaborative solution. The formula is, "I used to struggle with X, what worked for me was Y," or "I'm not an expert in Z, but my understanding is A, what's your take?" This practice dismantles the imposter syndrome. By openly acknowledging the gaps in the edifice, you prove to yourself that the edifice still stands. You integrate your shadow instead of fighting it. You become a whole person, not a polished mask. The energy you once spent hiding is now freed for creation. Vulnerability in leadership is especially powerful. A leader who can say, "I made the wrong call, and here's how we fix it," earns immense loyalty and trust. It creates psychological safety for the team. It models that mistakes are part of the process, not indictments of character. This is the confidence of a captain who is secure enough in his command to acknowledge a storm. Apply this to your relationships. The courage to say, "I need you," or "I hurt when," from a place of wholeness, not desperation, forges deeper bonds. It is an invitation from a place of strength, not a plea from a place of lack. It is the difference between a beggar and a king offering a treaty. Embrace the paradox. Your confidence does not grow by adding more armor, but by having the courage to remove a piece, knowing the citadel beneath is unassailable. Your strength is proven not by what you conceal, but by what you can safely reveal. Be human. Be real. It is the ultimate display of power. Chapter 27. The Feedback Filter, Growing Without Breaking. An external source cannot give you confidence. However, intelligent engagement with the external world, specifically with feedback, is the whetstone that sharpens the blade of your competence, which in turn solidifies your confidence. The key is to develop a sophisticated filter, one that extracts nutrients from praise and poison from criticism. The unconfident person is feedback phobic. They avoid evaluation because their self-worth is fused with performance. Criticism feels like an attack on their being. The falsely confident person is feedback-proof. They dismiss all input, surrounding themselves with an echo chamber of praise. Both are fragile. The truly confident person is feedback asterisk philic asterisk. They seek out data to improve. Your filter has two settings, source and content asterisk asterisk. First, evaluate the source. Is this feedback from someone qualified who has my best interests at heart and who has observed the situation directly? Feedback from a trusted mentor, a respected peer, or a direct customer is high value. Feedback from a stranger, a rival, or a perpetual critic is low value, and can often be discarded at the source. Second, evaluate the content. Separate the asterisk emotional charge from the asterisk actionable data. Your presentation was boring and you seemed nervous is charged. The data within it might be. The middle section lacked clear examples and your packing was rushed. Extract the data. Discard the charge. Thank them for the feedback, maintaining your grace, and analyze the data privately. Never accept feedback in the moment if you are emotionally charged. Your only response should be, "Thank you. I need to process that. Can we revisit this tomorrow?" This gives you time to run it through your reframe engine and your filter. It prevents defensive reactions that undermine your authority. Create your own feedback dashboard. Actively seek feedback on specific, narrow elements of your performance. Ask your boss, "For that last project, what's one thing I did well on the execution, and one thing I could improve for next time?" This frames the conversation constructively and puts you in control of the inquiry. Most importantly, you are the final arbiter. You weigh the filtered data against your own self-knowledge and mission. Does this align with my goals? Does this ring true? You may accept 10% of a piece of criticism and reject 90%. That is your sovereign right. The goal is not to please the feedback giver, but to use information to advance your own competence. This process makes you antifragile. You are not broken by criticism. You are improved by the salvageable parts of it. You are not inflated by praise. You are calmly appreciative and then return to work. Your confidence becomes rooted in your own evolving, evidence-based self-assessment, not in the volatile opinions of others. You grow without breaking. Chapter 28, The Comparison Quarantine. Confidence is an internal measurement. Comparison is the act of replacing your internal metric with an external, moving, and illusory target. It is the poison in the well. You cannot build a stable sense of self while constantly measuring it against the curated highlights, manufactured successes, and unknown struggles of others. This must be quarantined. Understand that social and professional comparison is a neurological hijack. It taps into primitive tribal status-seeking wiring. Your brain interprets someone else's success as a relative loss for you, triggering stress and scarcity. Yet, in the modern world, this wiring is misfiring against a distorted reality, the 2D highlight reel of social media and public personas. The first step is awareness. Notice the physical sensation of comparison, the tightness in the chest, the sinking feeling. Label it. That is the comparison trigger. This simple act of numbing disempowers the automatic emotional cascade. You are not the feeling, you are the observer of the feeling. Implement a strict input quarantine. Audit the sources that most frequently trigger your comparison. Is it a particular colleague's boasts, a celebrity news feed? Sever access, unfollow, mute, or limit your exposure. This is not weakness, it is environmental design. You would not knowingly drink poisoned water. Do not consume poisoned information. Redirect your focus to your own absolute benchmarks. These are metrics based on your past self and your declared mission. Are you a better craftsman than you were 6 months ago? Are you closer to your financial goal? Are you healthier? Are you more disciplined? This is the only relevant comparison. You are running your own race on your own track. When you do observe someone else's success, practice compassionate detachment. Acknowledge it. You can even admire it. Then consciously decouple it from your own self-assessment. Say to yourself, their success is about their path. My path is my own. Their win is not my loss. There is no ledger. This severs the false connection. Channel the energy of comparison into curiosity, not despair. If someone's achievement triggers you, ask, what can I learn from their approach? Extract the tactic, not the trophy. Then return to your own workbench. Use their light to illuminate your path, not to blind you to your own progress. Your confidence must be an internally generated flame. The moment you hold it up to someone else's torch to see whose is brighter, you expose it to a wind that can extinguish it. Protect your flame. Nurture it with your own air, your own fuel. Let it grow in the quiet dark of your own focused effort. Its light will be all your own, and it will be enough. Chapter 29. The Confidence of Preparation. There is a specific, potent flavor of confidence that comes from one source alone: rigorous, exhaustive preparation. It is the confidence of the pilot who has run the emergency checklist 1,000 times in simulation. It is the confidence of the speaker who has not only practiced her speech, but has anticipated every possible question. It is the calm that comes from having no unknown unknowns. This confidence is not a belief in a lucky outcome. It is a trust in a thorough process. You have done the work so completely that the actual event is merely the execution phase of a plan you have already lived through in your mind 100 times. Performance anxiety is, at its core, a fear of the unexpected. Preparation systematically eliminates the unexpected. The work happens in the shadows. It is the relentless drilling on the weak points. It is the creation of contingency plans B, C, and D. It is the mental rehearsal where you visualize not only success, but also handling setbacks with calm competence. You are not preparing for a perfect scenario. You are preparing for reality in all its messy permutations. This practice builds a reserve of ease. Because the fundamentals are so deeply ingrained, through repetition, visualization, and study, your conscious mind is freed from worrying about basics. You can be present, adaptable, and creative in the moment. Your energy is spent on nuance and connection, not on remembering your lines or your procedure. Apply this to every domain. For a difficult conversation, prepare by outlining your key points, anticipating their objections, and practicing your responses aloud. For a project launch, prepare by stress testing your plan, identifying single points of failure, and having mitigation strategies ready. For a physical challenge, prepare by training beyond the required demand. The mental component is as important as the practical. Stress inoculation is part of preparation. Deliberately practice your skill under mild stress, e.g., with a time limit in front of a friend while tired. This teaches your nervous system that performance under pressure is a familiar state, not a novel threat. When you walk into the arena prepared to this degree, your demeanor changes. There is a lack of frantic energy. Your movements are economical. Your speech is measured. You have the quiet assurance of someone who has already done the hardest part, the work, and is now simply collecting the result. This is palpable and commands respect. Do not confuse this with perfectionism. Perfectionism is fear-based. I must do everything perfectly or I will be judged. The confidence of preparation is mastery-based. I have done everything within my control to be ready. I am now prepared to handle whatever arises. Your confidence is rooted in the quality of your process, which you own completely. You are ready. Chapter 30. The Power of the Nevertheless. True confidence is not the absence of fear, doubt, or insecurity. It is the continued forward motion in spite of them. It is the voice that speaks over the chorus of internal protest and says, "Nevertheless." This one word is the fulcrum of action. It acknowledges the reality of your internal resistance and then chooses to override it with will. I am afraid to make this call. Nevertheless, I will dial the number. I doubt my idea is good enough. Nevertheless, I will share it. I feel like an imposter in this room. Nevertheless, I will contribute as if I belong. This simple linguistic tool creates a critical separation between feeling and doing. It honors the feeling as data, not as a command. It says, I hear you, fear. You are noted, and now I am proceeding with my plan. This is the essence of psychological integration. You are not trying to eliminate a part of yourself. You are choosing which part gets to drive. The nevertheless is powered by identity, not emotion. You act not because you feel like it, but because it is consistent with the person you have decided to be. I am a person who finishes what he starts. I don't feel like working today. Nevertheless, asterisk, I will work. Your actions become affirmations of your chosen identity, reinforcing it with every repetition. This practice builds tremendous self-respect. Each time you successfully execute a nevertheless, you prove to yourself that you are more than your transient emotions. You are the captain of the ship, and while you cannot calm every wave your feelings, you can always hold the wheel steady and maintain the course. Use it to break the paralysis of perfectionism. This draft isn't perfect. Nevertheless, asterisk, I will submit it. This plan has risks. Nevertheless, asterisk, I will launch it. It gets the plane off the ground. You can always correct course in the air, but you cannot steer a parked plane. The nevertheless is also your shield against the inner critic. When the critic lists your flaws and predicts your failure, you can acknowledge its report and say, nevertheless, I am going to try. You are not arguing with the critic. You are rendering its argument irrelevant through action. Action is the critic's kryptonite. Make this word a mantra. Write it on a card. When you feel the familiar drag of resistance, say it aloud if you must. Nevertheless, it is the bridge between the person you are in a moment of weakness and the person you are committed to becoming. It is the spark that ignites momentum. Your confidence will grow not from a life without fear, but from a long ledger of moments where you felt the fear and said, nevertheless. That ledger becomes your biography of courage. It is the only proof you or anyone else will ever need. Chapter 31. The Legacy of Small Wins. Confidence is not built in cataclysmic, heroic moments. It is built in the quiet accumulation of small, daily wins. A small win is any completed action that aligns with your standards and moves you, however incrementally, toward a goal. It is the brick. Confidence is the cathedral made of 10,000 such bricks, laid day after day. The brain's reward system responds powerfully to completed loops. When you finish a task, even a small one like making your bed, sending that email, or completing a workout, you get a hit of dopamine. This neurotransmitter is associated with motivation, pleasure, and a sense of efficacy. You are literally chemically training yourself to associate action with reward. Therefore, you must engineer your days to produce a high frequency of these completions. Break large, daunting projects into absurdly small next actions. Write book is paralyzing. Write for 25 minutes is doable. Get in shape is vague. Do 10 push-ups is concrete. The goal is not the scale of the win, but the consistency of winning. Keep a win log. At the end of each day, write down 3 small wins. They can be professional, personal, or behavioral. Stuck to my communication plan in a tense meeting. Finish the project outline. Went to bed on time. This practice forces you to look for evidence of your own competence and discipline. Over weeks, this log becomes an irrefutable document of your capability. These small wins create a positive feedback loop. A win creates a dopamine hit and a sense of efficacy. That sense makes the next action slightly easier to initiate. You build momentum. The brain starts to predict, when I start things, I finish them. I am effective. This prediction is the neural substrate of confidence. This strategy is particularly powerful for overcoming slumps or periods of low self-belief. When you feel incapable of the big thing, default to the small, certain thing. Clean your desk, organize a file, take a walk, complete the loop, get the win. It resets your neurochemistry and reminds your system of its own agency. The legacy of these wins is a deep, evidence-based self-trust. You are not relying on a grandiose self-image. You are relying on a documented history of showing up and getting things done. When a major challenge appears, you don't have to psych yourself up. You can look at your track record of 10,000 small victories and know, statistically, You are built for this. Never despise the day of small things. The marathon is won in the daily miles. The masterpiece is painted in daily strokes. Your unshakable confidence will be the sum total of all the days you chose the small, right action over the easy, wrong one. Stack those days. The tower of your self-belief will rise, impervious to wind, because every brick is accounted for. Chapter 32. The Unarmed Citadel. Confidence as your nature. The final stage is not a technique to use, but a state to inhabit. Confidence ceases to be something you do and becomes what you are. It is the default setting. You are no longer practicing confidence. You are simply being, and your being is confident. This is the state of the unarmed citadel, a fortress so secure it needs no visible defenses. This occurs when all the previous pillars, self-trust, competence, mental toughness, prepared action, have been integrated into your subconscious operating system. They are not thoughts you have to recall. They are the invisible architecture of your psyche. Your response to challenge is no longer a calculated application of principles, but a spontaneous expression of your nature. In this state, you are unarmed. You do not carry the weapons of aggression, defensiveness, or boastfulness. Your confidence is not a tool you wield against the world. It is the atmosphere you inhabit. It is evident in your relaxed posture, your patient listening, your calm speech, and your steady gaze. You are not trying to be seen. You are simply impossible to ignore. This confidence is completely non-comparative. You derive zero sense of self from being better or worse than others. You are on your own path, measuring yourself against your own standards. The successes of others can be admired without triggering insecurity. The criticisms of others can be considered without triggering defensiveness. You are psychologically sovereign. It is also outcome independent. You engage fully, execute impeccably, and release the result. Your worth is not on the line with every performance. You can fail publicly, and it will be a factual event you learn from, not an existential crisis. This detachment is not indifference. It is the freedom that comes from knowing your value is intrinsic, not transactional. Your presence becomes a grounding force. In chaotic rooms, people will unconsciously orient to your calm. You do not need to lead the meeting to lead the energy. By simply maintaining your own center, you provide a center for others. This is confidence as service, not dominance. To maintain this citadel requires only maintenance, not construction. The daily disciplines, the small wins, the physical reset, the mental reframing become like brushing your teeth. They are not arduous tasks to build confidence. They are simple hygiene to maintain the confidence you have already built. You are preserving a fortress that already stands. You have moved from building a front to inhabiting a home. The Stoic front was the disciplined presentation. The unarmed citadel is the serene reality behind it. You are no longer performing calm authority, you are its source. This is the endpoint of the journey, a confidence so deep, so quiet, and so complete that it requires no proof, demands no attention, and yields to no force. It simply is, and you are it. Chapter 33. The Built Self. You now hold the complete blueprint. Part 1 gave you the facade, the stoic front of undeniable presence. Part 2 has given you the foundation, the framework, the plumbing, and the wiring, the architecture of the confidence that makes that presence real, not performed. This is the work of a lifetime, yet it begins today with a single, small, kept promise to yourself. Do not be overwhelmed by the totality of the structure. An architect does not lay every brick at once. He lays one, then the next, checking constantly against the plan. Your plan is here. Your tools are your will, your attention, and your commitment to repetition. Remember the sequence. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds self-trust. Self-trust enables risk. Risk leads to competence. Competence cements confidence. It is a flywheel and you start it spinning with the smallest of actions. Start it now. The world will continue to be loud, chaotic, and full of doubters, both internal and external. Your job is not to silence them. Your job is to continue laying your bricks, to continue your drills, to continue returning to your breath and your posture. The citadel rises in the silence between your thoughts, in the space between stimulus and your chosen response. You are not waiting for permission to be confident. You are constructing the permission within yourself, with every rep, every reframe, every small win. You are building the only thing that can never be taken from you, your own capable, resilient, and unwavering self. Go now and build. The unshakable man is not born, he is built, brick by brick, day by day, win by win. You are the architect.